Hope you're all still awake. Late Night Mega here. And... okay, it's gonna be morning now. Well, let's try this again. Hope you're all still awake. Late Night Mega here. I thought... well, okay. It is time for... this episode is going to be one of the Explore the Town episodes, so that means it is time to spin the wheel of random topics and discuss something completely random. So, today's topic for discussion will be the Great Sylvando. Wait, that can't be right. Who is messing with my wheel of random topics? Sylvando, I can see you winking. Okay, let's try that again. Wheel of random topics. We're going to land on favorite shows as a kid. I don't know. Yeah, we're going way off the radar this time. I need something with random topics. So, I watched a lot of TV and played a lot of video games as a kid. That's not a mystery. Growing up as a 90's kid, I like that era, by the way. I did watch a lot of cartoons, however, a lot of them didn't... wow, what terrible camera angles. A lot of them... I mean, I know I watched a lot of them, but they don't... memories from them don't really stand out as much as some other shows, so... my favorite show, probably my favorite show of all time as a kid, was Kenan and Kel. It was just absolutely hilarious. Kenan and Kel, a comedy show about, two teenagers, and they're always getting in trouble, and Kenan's always trying to come up with plans, but then Kel usually screws everything up, and then Kel loves orange soda, and he goes, "Who loves orange soda?" "Kel loves orange soda." "Is it true?" "Mm-hmm." "Oh, hey, this is the person for our letter." It's not. I do. Ooh, I totally messed up the whole thing. But, yeah, we have side questing going on here as well. So, she's now working for the Doge. So, she's not working at the bakery anymore. Okay, well, don't know what her brother will think about that, but we'll find out later. Yeah, my favorite episode from the Kenan and Kel, it had to be the Thanksgiving episode. And in that episode, they had they had a turkey, and then Kel ended up eating the entire turkey. And so then Kenan and Kel try to make it better by putting some turkey lunch meat on the bones that had been completely cleaned off by Kel, and then pouring some gravy on it as well, and then they're like, "Oh, it looks diseased," and then that, and their family was coming in just a few hours, and yeah, I think it was 4 hours or something, and then so then they're trying to get a turkey, and it's Thanksgiving Day, and so they go to Rigby's, the corner grocery store, convenience store that Kenan worked at, and he ended up getting the last turkey, so they brought it home, and they're like, "Okay, well, now we got to cook this thing. We've only got 4 hours," and they're reading the instructions for how to cook a turkey, and it's gonna take 8 hours and 10 hours this way, and so they end up jamming the turkey into the microwave, and then taking the microwave and putting it into the oven, and about 30 seconds later, the whole kitchen blows up. And their clothes are destroyed, and there's smoke, and everything's covered in black ash and that. And then it's just absolutely hilarious. And then so then they end up trying to call and order a turkey, and they get 3 of them. And Kel's like, "Well, why are you ordering 3? In case something bad happens to the other 2. Their antics were just so great. And then, so they get the turkeys, and then they are being live turkeys. Not, the dead and cooked kind. So then they're kind of running out of options. So then they go to they go to a fancy restaurant where Chris is having dinner with his mom, and you never see his mom in he just talks about her a lot. You see pictures of her, but not of her face or anything. She wasn't like a big character or anything, but Chris was actually the owner of basically Keenan's boss at that Rigby's grocery market. Yeah, his name was Chris Rigby. And so they ended up stealing his turkey dinner when they come out and bring the turkey. And so then they get the turkey back, and then they're just chilling and like, okay, and then Kel ends up like opening a bottle of orange soda, and he starts doing his "Who Loves Orange Soda" thing. There's a nice little secret treasure there. See, this is why I explore. And he ends up popping the cap, and it flies into the turkey. So then he's like reaching his hand in there to try and get it, and his hand gets stuck. And then the turkey's hot. So then he starts complaining that it's hot, and then he just goes like completely crazy, just running around, smacking everything and destroying everything with the turkey. Runs out to where the family is and starts smacking them with the turkey. Other 90s shows I watched as a kid, as you can tell, I like comedy. You'd probably tell by, some of the cheesy jokes. I hope they make you laugh sometimes. But, yeah, I did like comedy shows as a kid. I liked All That as well. That was a pretty good one. I liked both versions of All That, although I probably liked the more original cast with, like, Lori Beth Denver and Danny Tamborelli, and obviously Keenan and Kel on there. Josh Server. I still remember some of the actors' names. And Amanda Bynes. Yep, she was on there. I remember Kel would play this, and basically all that was just a show. If you don't know what that is, it's a show where they did a bunch of like just little mini comedy skits, and they would have one where Kel would dress up as this guy, and he would there'd be like these people at this home, and they're like, "Oh, my TV's broken. I wonder how we can get it fixed." And then Kel busts through their wall with his big sledgehammer, and he's like, "I'm repairman, man." And he says he can fix anything and everything and so much more. And then he just like ends up just destroying stuff instead of repairing it because he uses a sledgehammer. But then he acts like he repaired it. Oh, I just got a kick out of that stuff when I was a kid. Let's see, what else did I watch? I remember Saturday nights I would watch the Snick. It was like a 2-hour block of these shows. They would change up the shows every once in a while, but they would typically have like All That, Keenan and Kel. They'd have a couple cartoons on there from time to time. Kablam was one. Kablam was one of my more favorite cartoons. Again, that was another one that had like a bunch of little mini segments to it. My favorite one being Prometheus and Bob, the caveman and the alien's like always trying to teach Bob something, and of course Bob always screws it up. And if it's not the caveman screwing things up, it's this little monkey that they have going around and screwing everything up. That was always hilarious. It got to the point where I would see, because they would start the segment and they would show like what topic they would be doing for the day, and it'd get to the point where when I watched the show and I saw the topic come up, I would just start laughing at the topic, because I just had all these silly ideas of what it was going to be like the topic of bowling, and so the caveman's like sticking his tongue into the bowling ball holes, and then he gets it stuck and can't get it unstuck, and then the monkey like tricks him or something to try and throw the ball while his tongue is still stuck to it, so then he ends up flying too. Just crazy nonsense like that. But yeah, I wasn't talking about cartoons in this one. I was talking about more of like the live action shows. Live action comedy shows. What was another one? They had Drake and Josh. That came on later. That was kind of like the successor to Kenan and Kel. I remember seeing somewhere online recently that I don't know what new show it was called. I don't even remember what it was called. And like one of the comments was like, "Oh, they're just trying to like rip off Drake and Josh, but Drake and Josh did it better." And I'm like, no, Kenan and Kel was the Drake and Josh before Drake and Josh, and Kenan and Kel did it better than Drake and Josh. Drake and Josh was okay. Oh, there's another locked cell door. Oh, hey, this is the lady we need to deliver the letter to. So we'll deliver that letter. Complete that side quest. I should, commentate on something that's going on screen at some point during this episode. So Drake and Josh, it was okay. It had its moments, but a lot of times it came off like the actors were trying too hard to try and force itself to be funny, and it just didn't feel as natural or as funny as Kenan and Kel was. Kenan and Kel came off like the reactions of the people and the actors came off a lot more naturally than Drake and Josh. It just felt like they tried to force too many jokes on there, but some of their stuff was funny. I remember one time Drake was like trying to order something offline. He's like, "Oh, this is shipping from South America," and then Josh looks at it and he's like, "South America." So some things like that was where it felt more natural. I enjoyed that. Of course, we're talking about 90's Nickelodeon. How much of that is really natural to begin with? Other shows I liked, I mean, heck, I watched almost all of the shows to some degree on Nickelodeon. I didn't really get into like the Adventures of Pete and Pete or Hey Dude or things like that. I did get into Salute Your Shorts. That was one that was about a summer camp. Come to think of it, I can't think of too much from that show. I remember some of the characters they had. They had Budnick. He was kind of like the bully of the camp. And there was Sponge. He was the nerdy kid. They called him Sponge because obviously, he absorbed all the knowledge and could tell you all that stuff. What are the other characters on the show? I don't remember like any of the girls' names. I know there's like at least 7 or 8 main characters on there, and then you had the camp counselor. I don't remember his name either. And then you had Dr. Khan. Dr. Khan would always come over the announcer and be like, "This is Dr. Khan," but you never actually saw the guy. But he'd make announcements about camp, like between scenes and that. The other characters, Donkey Lips. Donkey Lips. He was like Budnick's right-hand guy. Yeah, the characters I remember are Budnick, Sponge, and Donkey Lips. I know some of the other characters had more normal names than any of those, but those are the ones that stand out. The only episode I really remember from that offhand was the Capture the Flag episode. And I like Capture the Flag as a game. I like it as a concept, especially the way they were televising it and such, because there was like these strategic elements to it. So yeah, even in my earlier days, I still liked strategic elements to things, It wasn't so much just, run and gun. It was just... you got to try and sneak your way over to the enemy side, and then try and grab their flag, and then get back to your home base with their flag without getting caught. And so I like that, and that strategic elements of Capture the Flag kind of played into that episode. Camp Anawana, that was the name of the camp. Oh, I remember the theme song for that, too. It's like, Camp Anawana, we hold you in our hearts, and when we think about you, and then Budnick interrupts and just shouts, "It makes me want to fart." And then the counselor guy, he's like, it's I hope we never part. Now get it right or pay the price. So yeah, they had the capture the flag thing, and you know, I guess that's one of the reasons I really like the Mega Man series too. I mean, yeah, it's an action platformer. Well, most of them are, but there's a strategic element to it between, you know, picking which stage to go to or picking the order of the stages. If you're familiar with the Mega Man game, or just like finding uses for all the weapons. And for the most part, a lot of the weapons can be useful in the right situations, in the right spots, or against the right enemies. And so some of that can also factor into how you choose to go about the games, or which order of stages you choose. Look at this, I found secrets up to the roof. While the map of this place doesn't look super complicated, I mean, it looks like it's just like 4 basic rows. It kind of is, but then there's like certain buildings and stuff that will send us all over the place. Like this one. I'm going to be completely confused here, going on about. I don't know what. What other shows? Game shows. I loved some of the game shows on Nickelodeon. I know one that gets a lot of praise is Guts. I didn't really care for that one much. That was more like serious, and it was like more about sports competitions in that, and always trying to like get the fastest time or whatever ahead of the other kids. And then you end up climbing this giant mountain at the end, and there's all sorts of like glitter and giant foam boulders that come crashing down on you as you're trying to climb up. And it was okay. I watched it every once in a while, but mainly I just watched it because the next show that was coming on was what I really wanted to watch, and I didn't want to start playing a video game and then lose track of time and then miss the show that I really wanted to see. Which, by the way, the game shows I really wanted to see, there's 2 of them that really stand out, and I don't... There's one that ranks over the other, but both of them, I like them both highly for some of the same reasons. I'll just tell you right now, my favorite game show was Double Dare, and second favorite, very close second favorite, was Legends of the Hidden Temple. We'll go to Double Dare first. Double Dare, I liked the whole concept of the obstacle courses. That was my favorite part, the obstacle course. At the end of the show, the winning team gets to run through this obstacle course. They've got 60 seconds for 8 obstacles. And a lot of the obstacles like ended up getting like really messy and stuff, like they're diving through slime and whatnot. And whatever other messes they make. I remember they had one obstacle that was like Mark Summers was the host of that. Mark Summers was such a great host too. He was fun. They had a giant-sized head of Mark Summers, and it was called like you had to go in one ear and out the other. So you'd like crawl into his ear, and it was filled with all this like earwax goo and come out the other side, and then you'd grab a flag and you'd pass the flag to the next to your partner, and then they'd go to the next obstacle. That was what you had to do. You had to pick up the 8 flags. The rest of the game was like trivia challenges, but then like if you let me see if I can remember their opening sequence where they described those, because it was the same thing every time. Mark Summers would say, okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and if you don't know it or think the other team doesn't have a clue, you can dare them to answer it for double the dollars. But be careful, because the other team can always double dare you back for 4 times the amount, at which point you either have to answer the question or take a physical challenge. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, my memory is sometimes scary. In fact, I can still remember the big cheat code from Turok Dinosaur Hunter. I haven't played that game in... When was the last time I played that game? It had to be like almost 2 decades ago? No. I'm not that old. Well, I am that old, but I like to pretend I'm not. Probably about 15 years ago? Ish? I need to stop dating myself. But yeah, I can still remember the big cheat code by heart. NTH, GTH, DGD, CRT, DTRK. You can look that up and fact check me in the comments section. I'm sure if I'm wrong on that, I'll hear about it. Yeah, I have a very vivid memory about a lot of things. Anyways, back to Double Dare. So I like the physical challenges of Double Dare, and I liked all the messy games and such, where they're like dumping slime on everybody and that. What were some of the other obstacles I liked? There was one that always got tough because you had to like climb up a slide, and the slide was like covered in chocolate, so you were like trying to climb up on the edges. And I remember the contestants were always like slipping down on that. There was a giant gumball machine. You'd start out on top and you'd grab the flag, and then you'd just jump into like this giant ball pit and come out the gumball slot. That was always neat. And then I think my favorite obstacle though would be there was this giant mouth that you would you'd like dive head first down, and there'd be like all this slime and stuff on it. And then there was a giant nose that you got to pick too. This was 90's Nickelodeon. It was wonderful. I'll be honest with you guys. I know a lot of people like the giant nose. I wasn't as big of a fan of the giant nose because a lot of times what can happen is while you're like trying to dig in the nose to find the flag, it'll like shoot a bunch of slime out at you, and if you're looking straight up at it, it shoots a bunch of slime all over the contestant's face, and then they can, hey, I found Sylvando. We got a chat about you messing with my wheel of topics. Anyways, but they would get like slime all over their goggles or whatever, and then they can't see, and then that makes it even harder for them to try and find the flag. So yeah. And Legends of the Hidden Temple is, well, it's actually very different. But you know, if you know me, I wasn't really a messy kid. I never like really played in the mud or anything as a kid or any of that stuff. So it is kind of weird, but that I enjoyed, you know, that aspect of the show. But I thought it was neat. It always looked fun to me. Legends of the Hidden Temple, on the other hand, basically had an obstacle course, but it wasn't really messy. So the main goal was to get to the temple, and you'd have like 3 minutes in this temple, and you'd have to grab like some sort of artifact, sacred artifact or whatever, and then escape from the temple. And like each room in the temple would have a different, you know, objective you would have to complete. Sometimes it was just like, I remember the Shrine of the Silver Monkey, that's like the most famous one. It was like this 3-piece silver statue, and you had to put it together, and you put the base on, and then the middle section, and then you take the head with this long neck of a pole, and then you jam it on there. And once you get it all on correctly, it unlocks the door to the next room. And sometimes it depends on where the doors go, that you know, the path you take through the temple might be a bit different. And then there were temple guards too that would pop out in several of the rooms. And so if you if you ran into a temple guard, you had to give him a pendant of life, and in order to move on. If you were caught without a pendant, then you're taken out, and then your partner gets to go. It's teams of 2, and oh, we got a crafting edge kit. Battle forks. So we can eat and battle at the same time. That goes right with the Double Dare discussion. Speaking of eating and, you know, progressing at the same time, that reminds me of another Double Dare obstacle, Blue Plate Special. They would usually have like waffles or something on it, and You know, you had to find the flag that was buried in the waffles or the pancakes. It was like these giant foam waffles or something, and there was like syrup all over it, and you'd have to like lift it up and search in all the, you know, holes of the waffles to find the flag. And anyways, Legends of the Hidden Temple. So you'd have all these different rooms. And they'd change up the rooms sometimes too. I think the only one that really remained consistent was there was the observatory, but sometimes you had to do different things in the observatory. Whereas the Shrine of the Silver Monkey, I think that was like the one that was always the same. There was one room where you had to like smash pots, and they got to take like these I don't know what material it was. I don't want to say ceramic, but some sort of clay pots, and they would like smash them on the floor, and then you'd find this key, and then you had to put the key in the right spot to move on to the next room. So yeah, Pendants of Life. Oh, and in order to get the Pendants of Life, I'm like working backwards through this show. You had to win them while playing the 3 temple games, which is where you had 2 teams competing head to head. And the game actually started with like 8 teams. Oh, let's see, what teams were there? I remember there was blue barracudas. They were all like a color and an animal. You had the green monkeys. I was always rooting for blue barracudas, go figure. Silver snakes, purple parrots. We're crafting, by the way. I have not like hardly paid attention to anything that's going on camera. This is what happens when we spin the wheel of random topics. But you'd start with these 8 teams. What was the Orange Iguanas was one. What was red? Red Jaguars. I think I'm still missing one. Or 2. Maybe it starts with 16. I don't know, 6 or 8 teams. And you start off and you have to cross this moat. And it's like this giant pool of water. And there was different ways of having to cross it. This was a show that I would have wanted to be on too, except for the moat part. Because I didn't like getting wet. Although I mentioned I love swimming and all that, but not like... I didn't like getting like my normal clothes wet or anything. I absolutely hated that as a kid. So I wouldn't have liked the moat part unless it was one of the moat parts where it was easy to like get across and stay dry. Like I remember there was some where you just like jump from platform to platform to get across, but if you fell off, then you'd have to go back to the start. Ooh, that was nice. Alright, and let's just keep double bashing here. We're making some iron equipment. Ooh. Okay, that one's done. That's done. That's done. I think we're going to call that one good. So yeah, you'd get to... It'd be like the first 4 teams to cross the moat. And some other ones with the moat were like, you had to do a rope swing and grab onto this net, and then you climb up this net, and then you jump off into the water on the other side or something like that. I wouldn't have been a fan of that one. And then you get to the Steps of Knowledge, where they tell you like the story behind this artifact. It was usually based on some sort of mythology, and then you had to answer questions, and then the first 2 teams to answer like so many questions correctly got to move on to the Temple Games, and then the winner of the Temple Games, that team gets to go on to run the temple. Oh yeah, and you had a giant talking rock head named Olmec. It was like his temple. Anyways, we're closing out here, so that's going to be all for this discussion and this topic, I guess. Nice trip down Late Night Mega's memory lane. So I'll see you guys next time. I'm going to rest and save, and I'll see you then.